everybody. Just got done doing a little bit of an oil change on the old Focus ST and gonna go out and put her through her paces a little bit if I can get out of my driveway without getting hit. This is gonna be my official first actual vlog, as opposed to just uploading videos to YouTube with little bits and pieces of video that I've kind of had floating around on my iPhone. So we're gonna try and actually do a legitimate video here. I think today's subject is gonna be the Formula One qualifying from yesterday evening or this morning, depending on what side of the world you're on, where unfortunately our beloved Reds were again crushed by the Mercedes of Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Bottas. So I think we all had a little bit different expectations this year for the Ferrari power unit and package, but it does appear that this may be another year of everyone chasing Mercedes. So I think Mr. Bottas is going to have his hands full trying to keep up with Lewis again this year, but at least he's driving a little bit more, with a little more anger, I guess, if you want to call it that. So our Mercedes friends, Mr. Leclerc did look impressive, at least in his first quali with a real works team, as opposed to the Sauber from last year. Even though they were Ferrari powered, still not the same package as a true Ferrari. So that was impressive. Ferrari, really, the new SF90 package looked just absolutely planted the entire qualifying session and even into the free practices. It really looked dialed in, where the Mercedes appeared to kind of be a little bit more for Lewis and Valtteri to really have to wrestle around the turns. So it'll be interesting to see what both packages look like in race trim. They've got a little bit more fuel and are set for a long pace. Traditionally, the Ferrari seems to have a little bit better race package than Mercedes, but unfortunately with Mercedes and their power unit turned up to party mode, it's a little bit more currently than any of the other manufacturers are going to be able to handle them. So maybe one of the bigger surprises was Max Verstappen with the now Honda powered Red Bull being able to stay at the top of the time sheets with a unit power unit that's been a little bit less than reliable over the years. So that's one to watch for tomorrow, because Max does tend to make halfway decent starts provided his power unit holds up, and obviously he'll be up there close with Sebastian Vettel. So both of them making good starts. Hopefully they can jump on top of the Mercedes within the first couple turns and get out to a nice long lead and have the Mercedes chasing them. But I'm not too confident that's going to happen, but we'll see. So further back in the pecking order, I think another surprise for this year is the speed, the overall pace of the Haas. That's one that I think everyone kind of had an idea might happen, but weren't totally expecting them to be only 3 or 4 tenths off the pace of the Ferraris. So that's one to keep an eye on in race form, to see if they can keep their pit stop blunders and keep their tires on, or wheels I should say, this year would be obviously an optimum strategy for the Haas team. So going kind of backwards in the grid, in the likes of Renault, Force India, aka now the newly appointed Racing Point, who I think the rest of us will keep calling Force India inadvertently. The midfield is stacked right now. Force India, Renault, Alfa Romeo, all of those manufacturers do appear to be on a fairly level playing field. Maybe there'll be some actual entry into the top 4, 5, 6 spots throughout the year, but unfortunately it does still seem like we've got that big gap in between the Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bulls, and then the rest of the pack. But we'll see. The fact that we've got 2 Haas's in the top 10, that will obviously make things a little bit interesting. So other things that were a little bit interesting is Pierre Gasly obviously not making it out of qualifying, out of the first session of qualifying. That one not as much concerned about, just for the fact that he did kind of get caught out as the track improved right at the end of that session. So on race pace, again, that'll be one that I think he'll be in the points, but probably not going to be keeping up with Max Verstappen yet. So we shall see. Some of the other people that are having a little bit of a rough time this weekend here. Lance Stroll, still not convinced that he is a true talent as opposed to pay for spot sort of driver. I guess we'll see as the season goes on if he has what it takes to hang out with Checo, but I would not be holding my breath on that one. So Mr. Giovinazzi, we'll have to see what happens with him as time goes on. I think another major disappointment is our friends at Williams. And just what do they have to do? Bear with me here so I don't get T-boned here. What is Williams going to have to do to get back into championship winning form? Obviously with Paddy Lowe putting in his leave of absence or termination, depending on who you're talking with, that's going to be a tough one. So they are definitely a few races off, potentially even breaking out of the last 2 or 3 spots on the grid. So George Russell obviously said it best when he said that basically him and Robert Kubica are going to be doing everything they can to help the engineers to really develop that Williams package, but I would not hurry up and wait on those 2 guys to be getting up there anywhere close to points anytime soon, provided that we don't have any sort of mechanical issues from the teams further up the grid. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the Formula 1 status quo. If there's anything I missed, obviously leave a message down in the comments. We can talk about it going forward. Like I said, this is my first real vlog. Just out here going for hopefully find a gas station that's got a car wash that doesn't have an hour-long wait, and we'll pick up from there. All right, everybody. Just got done getting the Focus car wash, give it a little bit of a bath because it was nasty after all of the last batch of rain came through. It finally washed all the salt off the roads here in sunny Wisconsin. So it's a balmy 36 degrees outside today, so I figured it's a good day to get a car wash, and just got done waiting in line for half an hour to get through the car wash, but we're all cleaned up and ready to rock and roll. So one other thing I thought I'd talk about a little bit is the vehicle that I'm currently driving, which is a 2017 Focus ST. Before this, I had a 2011 Subaru WRX with nothing special, just a cold air intake and an axle back, or basically a muffler delete, I guess would be the better way to call it. So, and then obviously the Cobb tuning access port. So setup on this car is about the same, just a cold air intake. This one does have a catback, Roush Racing exhaust, and then obviously the Cobb access port as well. So just running their stage 1 tune, the 91 octane tune basically. So around here not quite as much 93 octane unless you're going to fuel with ethanol, so which currently this is just obviously pump gas, no ethanol on this tune. So basically ended up getting rid of the Subaru because I needed to get something a little more fuel efficient. So that thing unfortunately was only 22, maybe 25 miles per gallon with a tailwind and a push, where on this thing I can get usually 31, 32 miles per gallon when it's a little bit warmer outside. During the winter it's probably only 25 or 26 also, but saves a little bit on fuel every year. So far I do enjoy the car. Coming from that Subaru, not quite as quick in a straight line, obviously being front wheel drive versus all wheel drive, but other than that though, as far as handling goes, the biggest difference on the Focus is just how it stays fairly planted in turns, and there's not nearly as much body roll compared to the Subaru. So, but I guess with something that's a little bit more track focused versus something with a little bit of rally heritage on the Subaru, that would make sense. So, so far I haven't had any issues with the Focus, so that's a beautiful thing. know right now that everyone's been talking about the recall on the Focus STs, where they can stall potentially when you're driving, or have kind of a strange idle and things like that. I haven't seen any of that. I have had a little bit of an issue with on hot restarts where the RPMs do drop down to probably right in the 500 RPM range, then come back up. But it does kind of, you know, labor the engine basically for a few seconds. That's just on a hot start, but that only happens every once in a while. So that probably is part of the recall, but I haven't been any huge rush to take it in to the dealership to get that taken care of. One, because they haven't sent me a letter saying they actually have parts for it yet. And two, because I'm probably going to have to reflash the ECU back to the stock tune and unmarry my access port. So kind of also waiting to see if anybody else responds back with if they have any issues reflashing their ECU back to their whatever tuning package they're running. So kind of in hurry up and wait mode on that one, and with a busy work schedule coming up here, again, not really in a huge rush for that. So on the outside of the car, which I'll show you at some point in time here, nothing really done to it, just a set of Rally Armor mud flaps, trying to keep some of that spray off the side of the car, because if anybody else out there is running a Focus ST, you know exactly what I'm talking about, how if you go through any sort of a mud puddle, it's pretty much down the entire side of your car, which is frustrating. But the Rally Armor seems to do a pretty good job of keeping all that crap off the side of the car. So other points on here, this does have the ST3 package, so it does have the voice activated navigation, the nice shiny Recaro leather seats with bolsters that keep you in place, actually do a pretty good job of keeping you in place when you're going through turns. So if you're a little bit on the bigger side, might be a little bit too comfy depending on how wide your chest is, but for me it's nothing too bad. So you actually do get used to it if you're on longer trips. So but if you are not a super skinny individual, it can be a little bit of an adjustment if you're coming from a standard seat to these Recaros. So yeah, other than that, as far as the components that I have added to the vehicle, the cold air intake obviously was pretty much a piece of cake to install. The Roush exhaust wasn't too bad. We did end up having to re-weld the muffler tip Y pipe, just due to the fact that when it was built, they actually miswelded it, so it was actually facing up and riding right on the bumper. So one thing I would maybe suggest with the Roush racing exhaust is, if you are going to get a Roush exhaust, is look into the Cobb exhaust hangers. They're a lot more stiff than the factory hangers are, and I did have some issues with where the exhaust runs over the left rear axle kind of suspension area back there. Did have some issues back there with that hitting every so often. So, but since have taken care of that. So now we can open her up a little bit since we're on our way out of town. So like I said, not as quick as the Subaru was in a straight line, but going through roundabouts and sharp turns and things like that, it definitely stays planted. And aside from having to deal with some torque steer that everyone talks about, also on the Focus ST, aside from having to deal with that, it is actually a pretty smooth ride, especially going through the turns. So, and actually the torque steer is not all that bad either. It just takes some getting used to. If you've driven any sort of a front wheel drive vehicle with a little more than 180, 200 horsepower, you're probably fairly comfortable with that anyway, but it can take a little bit of adjustment if you're not used to it. Wheel spin also. Get a little bit of wheel spin through the first 3 gears depending on how hard you're hammering on it. And obviously if it's bone stock versus having some upgrades, you might have a little more of an issue with that, because typically the tunes, even the off-the-shelf tunes, are a fairly substantial increase in torque. Not as much horsepower, but the torque numbers are a little bit higher than right out of the box. So you can get a little, kind of get the front end moving side to side a little bit if you are wide open throttle. So, but other than that, like I said, it's pretty well blown stock aside from the intake and exhaust, and it has been fun to own so far. I do miss the Subaru, but getting the extra mile per gallon was definitely worth it. Unfortunately, now I have since switched job positions, and I don't need the extra mile per gallon, so it ended up being a little bit of a moot point, but still happy with the decision. But there are times when I miss the Subaru, so at this point I'm going to shut up and drive and get back to the home front, and I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. Like I said, this is my first one, so bear with me rambling. It's definitely takes a little bit of getting used to have to sit here and talk to myself. Well, talk to you as well, but it takes some getting used to having to just talk randomly with really nothing in front of you to read off of or keep you on track. So, but we'll keep working on it, keep improving these videos, and if you liked what you saw, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, obviously notification button, because the subscribe button doesn't seem to do everything it used to in the past, so make sure you hit that bell so you can get alerted when I'm dropping new videos. I'm going to try at this point to at least get one video up a week. Going to do my very best for that, and then once motorcycling season starts here in Wisconsin, there'll be a lot more content coming on. But right now the roads are finally just clearing, so there will be more coming down the pipe. I've been trying to think about a way to close these videos too, and I think I'm going to close this in the, some might argue, immortal words of Brent Smith from Shinedown. Just about every concert at the end he says, "Be good to yourself, be good to each other. It's not goodbye, it's just till next time. I'll see you guys later. Peace."